All right, let's get this party started. I appreciate everybody showing up today. Got just a little out of the norm. This is going to be really unstructured. So we hope that during this Ask Me Anything session, so Carrie, looks like you've already got a question. You're saying the Office 365 threat analytics discuss. So for those of you that did not hear, we signed an agreement, an alignment, if you will, on SaaS alerts. And one of the things that we've been hearing from the SaaS alerts community is how much they love that platform, how easy it is to onboard and everything that goes along with it. But the one thing that's been missing is what happens at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Well, what happens is they tell you there's something going on, but unless you have people that are alive and awake and monitoring, nothing happens with it. And that's a big problem that we see in the industry in general. It's like there's amazing tools, there's amazing technologies out there, but there's always, I think we've all heard that people, process, and technology. Well, it starts with people for a reason. So you've got to have the people, you've got to have the processes in place, and then you've got to have that amazing technology, which we believe SaaS Alerts is. And so one of the things that we had struggled with in our own platform, because we had been doing this Office 365 log monitoring, threat analytics, call it what you will, type platform for a while, it was clunky getting onboarded. Wasn't near as easy for our partners to self-service themselves, and the breadth of what we could do. We were really stuck to 365 and G Suite. There was no Ninja, there was no Lion Guard, there was no other cloud apps that we were integrating with. So as we started looking at it, we really started seeing what was happening and what our partners were talking about. We took a good hard look at it, and it made sense for SaaS Alerts and Solutions Granted to come together so that we could leverage a more mature platform, but then we could add our SOC services to it.
So I'm gonna piggyback off of Michael's comments with the SaaS alerts. So it's not a new 365 SIM. It is a new platform, but it is not considered a SIM. So echoing what Michael said, the big thing was onboarding. We now have better transparency and licenses. We can now start looking at more. So we are going to have a webinar. I'm not going to give you too much, but come March timeframe, we're going to have another webinar where we're going to be opening up more platforms than just 365, because the overall goal is not just to have a 365 threat analytics, it's to have MDR for the cloud. We already have the MDR for the endpoint. We are now officially considering rolling out the full MDR for the cloud, which is going to obviously have to implement more than just 365. There are a lot of SaaS cloud-based applications that are out there that need to be monitored. 365 is just the start of it. When it comes to monitoring for MFA being enabled, so this platform will not look for MFA being enabled. We do log if MFA is enabled, but the biggest thing we're alerting on is MFA gets disabled. So that is a big IOC that we look for. Most of the time, let's be honest, it's typically an engineer that's, one of your customers is having an issue. So your engineer is trying to troubleshoot, and he's like, dang it, let me just disable 2FA. It happens. We see it happen. And there needs to be accountability for that, because obviously when you do that, you're opening up a vulnerability within that organization. So it needs to be accounted for. And we're reporting on admin activities like that. Coming soonish, I'll say, we do have a platform that will allow us to provide a score system to account to see, okay, do you have 2FA enabled within the organization? We are already doing that as part of our compromise assessments. So if you do need an organization that you want to validate, there's no potential pre-existing compromise still sitting in there, or if you just want that quick check, we can run a compromise assessment, which will also provide that validation when it comes to a 365 environment on what type of score they have, which will include that, hey, it splits it up between administrators that have 2FA enabled. It'll also tell us for the whole organization for regular users.
So Ed, you had a good question in there. You asked about the alignment and effective billing. So one thing that we wanted to do through all of this is try not to raise our prices at all. We wanted to keep it consistent where we were with our 365 threat analytics program, and we did that. So as we sit today, we're still that same dollar per user per month that we were always charging on the 365 brand analytics. And I think now we are officially calling it our cloud threat analytics. Is that correct, Dave?
It is
Since
correct.
it is
That
more
is.
of Yep. So it's still $1. And it's still no minimum, still no annual commits. So nothing really has changed there. Just a more robust platform. And I really think like one of the great features that I'm excited about is just more ability for you to onboard yourself in a quicker manner that doesn't require so much of our intervention. And that intervention with us sometimes is just slowing things down a bit too much.
Yeah, licensing is now super transparent. Besides onboarding, another concern that a lot of our partners had was, what am I being billed for? And we couldn't tell you until it came time for us to invoice you. So we used to have that term actively monitored account, which means if during the previous month there was a log created for a user, we ingested it, we analyzed it, we're retaining it. That user is now considered an actively monitored account for that month. Well, there's no transparency in that. So now with this new platform, as soon as you onboard, we are going to immediately send you a list of, for this organization, here is your accounts that we are going to bill you for. Now, we've used this in great success for a lot of partners to help clean up their 365. They didn't realize how many users that are stale out there. And obviously, they don't want to get billed for it, or how many test accounts, or even shared mailboxes. Pro tip, if you didn't know this, Microsoft, when you create a shared mailbox in 365, will create an active user. That active user, you don't even get a password for, but it is a vulnerability because if your 365 is compromised, someone can go in there, change the password, and now get access to that account. So it is recommended by us. It is recommended by Microsoft that you disable login capabilities to those shared mailbox accounts. And that's how it makes it even more transparent, right? You have an account and you don't want it monitored, you don't want it billed for, disable login capabilities. Works for resource accounts like conference rooms. No one needs to log in. You just need the calendar. So disable login to 365. That will take it off your bill.
Looks like we got a couple other questions coming in. Joe, you said, can we get some customer-facing documents for Avanan? Joe, that is one thing that Dave is working on feverishly, not just what we have that we're already giving out to our partners, kind of that relationship between us and the documents that we've had and that we've been working on to make better. But Dave is working on some more white labeled documents that you'll be able to add some of your own stuff to, but things that you'll also be able to push off to your clients. Dave, I don't know, do you have a time frame on any of that you're working on, or?
Yeah, so that is already published and available. They can get that whoever you work with, or email me directly. I'll get it over to you. But if you work with Brian or whoever you work with here internally, we currently have one specifically for email security. And again, it's branded email security. It's designed about in customer facing. So it's not centralized around Avanan. However, that is the solution that's behind it. We also have one around MDR, and then we have a general overall security. Now you're going to see more come in, hopefully on a weekly basis. We'll have a firewall as a service centered around one. We have one coming in from vulnerability management. One, so everything will be coming, and I'll be supporting that effort. Also, if there's something that anyone is hearing in the marketplace, so if your customers are asking you for something specific, that's real important for me to understand. I want to support you guys. I want to make sure that if you need collateral that supports your efforts and you need to answer questions that end customers out there are asking, come to me, let me know. And if there's a need for that, I definitely want to get it in your hands. But yes, definitely get the Avanan one. It's rocking, ready to go, and we have partners out there using it.
Right on. Let's see, got a question from Crecor. How does data defense BitDam compare to your offering? Oh, that's a tough question. They're both API-driven technologies that were built for the bigger problem when it comes to phishing and spear phishing. I don't know a lot about the BitDam technology. What I will say is, and I can be proven wrong, but everything that I've known about the other API vendors in this space. So when you talk about Iron Scales, Graphis, Enki, Area 1, Vade, They are a post mailbox delivery technology, and the Avanon technology that we use and support our partners with is a pre-mailbox delivery. So what that clearly means is we're not talking about something that reached the mailbox, had a verdict put against it, and then pulled back. It is stopping it prior. It is still an API technology. So we're not talking about a gateway technology. It is all done through APIs. I don't know what the pricing looks like on Datto Defense. I'm not really sure about that. Also, I don't think there's anything going on that there's any SOC services around that at all. So an account takeover starts to take place and we pick up on that. That is something that our SOC could alert you on. You know, it was one of those
Sounds cool.
interesting acquisitions that they made that acquisition, but then it went dormant for a very long time. I think they were working really hard behind the scenes to make sure that the integrations were damn near perfect before it started coming out. So heard about it, it went quiet, and then it seemed to come back. Don't know enough about it at the moment other than a few things I was able to point out. Had a question from Joe asking about SIM and SOC for Synology and firewalls. Yes, Joe. I'm going to answer yes to the firewalls with the caveat as I reserve the right to change my mind depending on the brand of the firewall, but I will say if it's a mainstream, and my mainstream may be different than yours, so I don't mean to offend anybody, but you know, I'll say the Cisco, the Palo Alto, the Checkpoint, the Fortinet, the SonicWall, the WatchGuard, the Meraki, and I know Will's on the call. Will, I don't know if you can unmute yourself. What other firewalls are we ingesting at the moment?
Good question. We can ingest logs from pretty much anything that's out there that supports syslog-based logging. I know there's only a couple I've run across that don't support that, but those are, like you said, not enterprise level firewalls. So yeah,
that's
pretty much anything.
That's probably a better way than me calling it mainstream. Enterprise is probably better.
Yeah, so as long as it supports that syslog format, we can take the logs from it.
And Will, Joe's asking about pfSense. I know that we talked about pfSense just the other day.
We did. I am pulling up that document now because I actually wrote that one down because it was one of those ones we had to do a lot of research.
Yeah.
And as far as the log retention question, yes, it is. We are retaining logs for 365 days at the moment. I know we've had several questions about people saying, you know, well, it has to be 7 years or it has to be something else. Right now, we've standardized on a year. And as you look at, and this isn't good for every regulatory compliance, but as we look at most of them out there, if you look at HIPAA, if you look at PCI, you know, bigger mainstream, probably the two biggest ones that most of our MSPs run across, there isn't necessarily a hard and fast amount of days or years, but there's this loose guidance of 1 year of log retention. And most of the time, as long as your security plan, your ISP, your SOP, your SSP, whatever it is matching the action to what you're taking, most auditors aren't going to mess with you and ding you for it. Will it change as time goes on? Possibly, potentially. But I think right now, 1 year is probably a really good one. Sorry, Will, go ahead.
No, you're good. So we do have one customer working with us at the moment on pfSense. They're running OpenSense, I guess is the name of the firmware. Unsure at the moment. Unsure. We're still in the middle of testing with that partner, and they are, I think they're finding it difficult to get support just being that brand. So to be determined.
Yeah, I think, Joe, your question on SonicWall guaranteed. So we are a tier 1 service delivery partner for SonicWall. We have been a SonicWall partner for 15, 16, 17 years, whatever it is at this point in time. And so it was actually the platform that we started with to make sure that we could do that before we could do anything else. So yes, we know for a fact the SonicWall works. And again, we know Checkpoint and Fortinet and WatchGuard and Palo Alto and Meraki and Cisco works as well. SonicWall is just where our bread and butter is if we're going to manage that firewall. All right, so I think we've kind of answered all of the questions till now. Corey, why don't we go ahead and advance that slide and keep talking a little bit and see if we get any more questions that come in. So, guys, I think all too often when you start selling yourself, your company, your services, you immediately start with the what your results are going to be, what you're going to do. And then you start telling your clients how you're going to do it. So I don't know if any of you have seen this before, but if you haven't, Google Simon Sinek and the Golden Circle. I think it's like 17 or 18 minutes. Stop talking about the what, the how, and then the why, and flip the script. Start with the why. You know, why did you get up this morning? Why did you start your own company? I can tell you the why I started my company. I started my company because I was on unemployment. That was the why. I needed something to do, and the why became this is it. That was my why. So find your purpose and talk about your purpose. So us at Solutions Granted, when we talk about our why is because we're good at security. This is what we do, and why we do it is because we like to do it and we're good at doing it. Corey, what would you say your why is?
My why is always I don't want to let the bad guys win. Plain and simple. You know, if I'm not in the military anymore, this is as close as it gets to it, right? Trying to fight the bad guys and stop them. So that's my why of why I'm doing what I do.
I mean, that why brings a lot of passion. I don't think passion comes from the how, and I don't think passion comes from the what. Passion comes from the why. My opinion. Dave, what do you think your why is?
So it's funny, having been on the MSP side and have sold to customers directly, I absolutely love supporting MSPs. And when I changed my career to that, I really found something that I could sink my teeth into. So I love seeing partners succeed. And I love driving other success. So I really have a lot of enjoyment and I have a lot of passion around that. So that's my why.
Yeah, so this is this one thing that we're talking about today that I hope everybody comes away from not talking about technology, not talking about speeds and feeds and how you're going to protect, but take a moment to reflect on this. Have your why. Watch that video. And if you've already seen the video, watch it again. Maybe circulate it through your company. I did this last year sometime. I sent it to the company and I asked everybody to reply to me individually and tell me what their why was. And it was really interesting to get that independent feedback that I could see what people were thinking and how cool it was for people to think about something in a way that they had never thought about it before. So we wanted to bring that up today, and hopefully maybe that brings up some other questions. Do see that we've got a question from Ivan in here. Says that I'm new to your company. Got a call with us next week. Said, do you also upgrade firmware on customer SonicWall devices? So when it comes to our firewall as a service program or our firewall management monitoring program, depending on what level of service you are at, yes, we will absolutely do it for you. We can assist you. We can give you guidance. We can take care of it. But also because we provide the global management platform, it sits in our data center on our hardware. This is not something that's SonicWall related other than it's their code that we've procured and put into our platforms. You know, the best part about this is you can do it for yourself. There are scheduling features in there that will allow you at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. It's like my favorite go-to, the 2 a.m., the proverbial 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Lots of bad things happen then, but you can also make good things happen. And you could schedule that firmware out if you're using our platform, and we can show you how to do that. I'm going to tell you what, so all three of us are going to answer this question because I think there's going to be three different answers. And I'm going to let Corey and I'm going to let Dave go first. Precor ask our thoughts on Datto buying InfoSight. And I'm going to step off screen here for a moment because they're vacuuming and I'm going to try to kill some of this noise. So Corey, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll start it. Very great question. Obviously, when any acquisition happens, there are concerns. You know, going through the Cylance BlackBerry acquisition, right? Obviously, there's big concerns. You know, I'm like everybody else, where I thought BlackBerry was just a mobile phone company until I did my research after the acquisition happened. I've worked very, very closely. Probably the one that's worked the closest with Infocyte. I don't even know how many years we've been partnered with them, but I feel like it's been a long time, and it's been an amazing relationship. Was it 3 years? Yeah, it's been an amazing relationship. Now, the only downside previous to the acquisition was we align. Our visions 100% align with each other. Their downside was they were a smaller company. They didn't have a whole room or bullpen full of developers able to implement a lot of the things that we discussed and we collaborated on. And we wanted, so there's a lot of things that were in the pipe, right, to come down and to implement. And so now with this acquisition, my hope, because that's all I can have right now without having defined facts. My hope is that now that they have the funding, now they have the developers, because Datto is huge. And just to be a little divisive, I'm just happy it wasn't ConnectWise or Kaseya.
I'll go with you on that one, buddy. Dave, what are your thoughts, sir?
So I have a lot of thoughts. I'll try to keep it short and definitely.
Sweet.
Michael, feel free to tell me I'm crazy on some of my thoughts, but and I haven't shared this with anybody. So here's what I think. First of all, in this space, most of the players are designed for the enterprise. So investments, growth, synergies. I had a lot of experience with another tool prior to coming on board, which was being fed into the MSP community, but still had shortcomings because it was designed for the enterprise. So for me, it's exciting to see a company that's focused on MSPs buy a solution like this that already works in this space, and hopefully see the development and the progress of the product stay where it is a good fit and it continues to be a great fit for MSPs, because I think that's really important, because a lot of the competitors are not designed for that. Also, Corey's spot on, like all those things are positive. I think it'll be really good for conversations I have from the marketing side and understanding the support and development get, and understanding the MSP space and talking purely around that space. I think there are a lot of positives. So I'm very excited about it.
Well, so from my point of view, nothing has changed yet. We are seeing the same people. We're having the same conversations. What's happening right now is we're having more of them. So it's created some awareness. It's created some buzz. There's lots of partners that are now interested in the MDR, EDR capabilities of what Infocyte has to bring to the table. And it does look like Datto is really making a concerted effort to invest in it. Obviously, they bought it. They want to see it successful. I don't think this was a computer associates buy it and let it go off to some corner and die type acquisition. I think it was a smart acquisition. I do believe that it was smart. Datto's making some moves, and I think it's about time. They have to get themselves into a game where they become more competitive with the Continuum ConnectWise monsters, if you will. And so now where they really need to focus is on security. And I'm happy that they're doing it. And I will also say that they're treating us very well. So we're the largest Infocyte partner out there, and Datto is coming out to visit with us because we had no relationship with Datto other than attending a conference, understanding them, knowing people over there, having some relationships. We didn't use their technology, but they're flying out to meet with us to understand the why we do what we do when it comes to Infocyte. Everybody like how I tied that back into the why?
Well, I was gonna actually do the exact same thing. So I want to be as transparent with everybody as possible. And that's something I hope everybody knows about me, is transparency. And that's another part of the reason of my why I'm at Solutions Granted. Now, I already explained why I'm into cybersecurity, but why I'm at Solutions Granted is because this is one of the only companies I've been at where we actually have partners. That we don't have customers, we have partners, which means we are in this together. And through all of our transparency, we hold our vendors accountable. So just because we've had this great 3-year relationship with Infocyte, if for something goes south with the acquisition, it doesn't mean we're just going to just put our head down and just roll through it. We have and we maintain a very strong vetting process to make sure that we are successful and our partners are successful. We've done the exact same thing with BlackBerry Silence. We hold them accountable. While they were a much bigger 800-pound gorilla.
We are not very popular with them at the moment, guys. Yeah, they're not happy with us because we're doing the dance on them right now because we're not happy about a couple things they've got done.
Yeah, so we hold our vendors accountable because, and I'm sure most of you have heard this from me, there's a lot of reputations on the line. Our reputation's on the line, your reputation's on the line, and in the end, your customer's reputation's on the line. So we all have to do our due diligence. And just because we've been on this journey for so long doesn't mean we will always stay on that journey if it doesn't meet our requirements and our vision.
Yep. So Gary, I know that this has been something that we've heard from a lot of our partners, and like this is one of those things that we have been beating the drum and just beating the hell out of Silence, BlackBerry. And it's coming. It's on the roadmap. It's in development, and we should see it by March.
Supposed to be this month. Supposed to be this month.
Oh, February. Okay. So yeah, it's there. Well, not there, but it is in the code. It is working. They do have it in other parts of their platform already. So it is something that has been promised, and it is coming in very short term. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide there, Corey. See what we got coming up next. One of my favorites. So those of you that ever have heard me talk about security before, I've taken this word responsibility and I had my favorite friend Google give me 3 different definitions. I want to talk about it just a little bit differently. You know, all too often we see this finger pointing that happens when it comes to security. Well, it's your fault that you clicked on that phishing email. Well, manufacturer, it's your fault that the phishing email got through. Well, IT, you didn't configure the platform correctly. And so the manufacturer pushes back and looks at the MSP and says, it's your fault. I want everybody to really look at this picture. I want everybody to see the diversity of what's happening in this picture. It's all inclusive, and security has to be all inclusive. It has to become a team sport. This isn't Manute Bol playing basketball by himself. This isn't Usain Bolt running the 100-yard dash by himself. This is a team effort. If we don't have the end users doing what the end users are supposed to do to the best of their ability, if the MSPs aren't doing their part in forcing the end users to do the right things and onboarding themselves in ways that they want the end users to do it. If us as an MSP, an MSSP, sorry, we're not doing the right things, we're not putting a good framework in place, we don't have good policies and procedures in place, if we're just haphazardly doing things and we're not using MFA and we're not doing all of the role-based access control and everything else that goes along with it, and then if we're not doing the due diligence to hold the manufacturers responsible, then it all just breaks apart. So this is a community-based effort. And I know that we could always look at where it broke down and what was that one thing, but it's never really just one thing that causes the event. There's multiple things that come to play. You know, maybe the customer pushed back on you, and maybe the customer told you, no way am I going to allow you to put MFA in place. Maybe the customer wouldn't give you a patch management window and allow it to be more aggressive. Maybe the customer tells you, nope, sorry, you're not taking away my administrative access because I have to have it and I can't wait on you. We're talking about all of these things that continue to cause the failures. And sometimes you have to be strong enough, sure enough, and assertive enough that the customer is either going to follow your lead or they're just not going to be a customer anymore. And that's a rough day. Now, I don't know how many of you, but think about this for a moment. How many of you in the role of CEO or founder or that position of determining on whether the juice is worth the squeeze has fired a customer? I've done it. I've had that moment. And it was scary. My very, very first customer that we had picked up 20 some odd years ago, we ended up having to let them go. And it bothered me. It hurt me emotionally because it was my beginning. It was my start. It was everything that brought me to where I could say I was running a business. I was doing this because now it was for real and it was legitimate. But the juice did not hit the squeeze anymore. It wasn't good. They were costing us so much money and time and effort that we had to let it go. And that was tough. And I'm not talking like 5 years into the relationship, 10 years into the relationship. I'm talking like 17 years into the relationship. And that's a long time to then have to let them go. But they were putting us in a compromising situation that we could no longer do our jobs effectively. So we bring up this sign and we talk about this because we said, why do the failures continue? These are the most pervasive things that we continue to cause problems. I mean, it's amazing. We did a Tales from the Crypt, I don't know how many months ago, but there was a breach, and I'm going to say breach, not incident. This was a full-on breach. The domain controller had OpenRDP access through the firewall. The CISO or CIO of the organization wasn't just a user. He was a domain admin. And Corey, was he not a enterprise admin and a schema admin all within the single?
They're always in all groups.
Yeah, I mean,
shouldn't be in.
And there was no two-factor. So, and patch management on the domain controller was just close to non-existent. So we had no role-based access controls. We had no patch management. We had no MFA. We had no network segmentation because the domain controller was on the LAN, which they were then being able to open RDP into. I mean, we're talking about almost every conceivable error that you could make to just make it an easy victory for a threat actor was given up. And this is not a one-time story. These are things that we continue to see. And what was it? Hafnium. Corey, was it Hafnium that we called because we did an analysis of a server and we found that an Exchange server hadn't been patched in how long?
I think it was 3 years or something like that. It was something crazy, something just outright ridiculous, because they can't reboot the server. It's too risky.
And I mean, I think there was that one, or there was one other one where it was like, hey, there's evidence that this is going south quickly. We are seeing that people are knocking on the door. There's indicators of an early compromise getting ready to happen. You guys need to do something and do it now. You need a patch. We don't really have time right now. We can't do that right now. Okay, well, we'll get to it soon. Was it a day or two later they got ransomed?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so, there's everybody's looking for the easy button, that easy victory. They're looking for the technology that fixes it, because nothing fixes it all, but there's technology that fixes it. And then there's this hyper focus around fixing it. And there's this joy and excitement around, oh my gosh, if we use SentinelOne's EDR, if we use CrowdStrike's MDR, if we use Avanon's email security, if we use ThreatLocker, man, just my problems are going to go away. Well, some of your problems are going to go away, but some of the problems, so for instance, firewalls, once upon a day, port blocking, doing what was purposeful, not just on the inbound side of it, what was leaving the environment, only allowing ports that were necessary to get out were allowed to get out, not every single one of them. Well, as firewalls got stronger, they got faster, they got more capable, and they got more services on them, I can't tell you how often we actually see a firewall anymore that anybody does outbound port filtering. It's hard, it's not easy, but the amount of incidences, amount of breaches that you could stop if you're doing some proper network segmentation, if you're blocking outbound ports, not just inbound, but outbound ports, they will make your SentinelOne EDR better. They will make your Avanon better. They will make your threat locker better. These foundational pieces, I mean, man, I'm shaking my head, but that's exactly how I feel. I feel like it's this never ending fight that we could actually win if we did these foundational pieces right.
That's
What's your
it.
thoughts, Corey?
That's it. I mean, that's, if someone came to me and said, hey, what is the biggest problems that MSPs are facing in regards to cybersecurity? My answer has been the same and will always be the same for a while. They're either doing too much or they're doing too little. They're not finding that middle ground. So when I say they're doing too little, they're not doing the basics. They're leaning on the side of convenience because they're letting their customers tell them what they should be doing. 2FA is too hard. I can't have you reboot the server. Most of these things listed here don't cost you a dime. So it has nothing to do with how much you have to charge your customer on a license or anything like that. It's just you're letting your customer run how their security works instead of being their MSP, instead of leading the conversations and explaining why before you talk about the what and the how. Now, when it comes to doing too much, I can't tell you. I mean, on a daily basis, I'm getting an email. What do you think about this product? What do you think about this product? There are going to be new products spawning up on a daily basis. There's so many tools. I can't remember the company, but they have that diagram that shows you all the antiviruses. I wish I could find that diagram again. And there's hundreds of antiviruses you can choose from. And it's like, okay, well, guys, my famous analogy I tell everybody is, again, I'm not going, if I need work done on my house, which I need, I'm not going to go out and hire a contractor based off the tools, right? Hey, do you use DeWalt? If you don't use DeWalt, I'm going to hire someone else. Well, that's not the case. But we need to stop, following the shiny thing. Get the basics done first, right? Lead the conversations with our customers. Get these easy things in place. We always promote, if you've seen it at ASCII, we have our triangle. We always give you, this is your basic starter kit with that triangle. Now we can start talking about supplementing the inside, because quite frankly, I know a lot of people want easy and they have one package, but again, Bob's Bagel and a medical institution, while it's great that they have the same security, sometimes it doesn't have to be that easy, right? Because obviously the medical institution falls under compliance. They have a lot more to lose. They're going to need a lot more security than Bob's Bagel will need, and can afford a lot more security because they have to. So big thing is finding that middle ground. Start with the basics, get the basics done. Take a screenshot of this. We can send you this slide here and figure out, are you currently doing this?
Yeah. A couple questions that came in. Diana, you ask, is any talk of offering security trading and simulation product? Yeah, we've talked about it. So we always find ourselves in this really interesting place as a MSSP for the channel. Sometimes companies don't see the value in what we bring to the table. They don't see how this is helpful to them and getting more penetration of their technology. We've looked at it, and I will say is that there's some fantastic ones out there. You could look at Breach Secure Now. You could look at Curricula. What's the other one? InfoSec. There's another really good one. And I'm not saying that some of the other ones out there, some of the larger, more mainstream ones, are no good, but these are ones that I have a personal view on, that I've seen, that I like. So nothing today, but something that we're constantly looking at and evaluating and trying to figure out. I mean, like SaaS alerts thing, we already had it, but we wanted something better. And we found them and they found us, and it made sense. So Ian, you said something about the indemnification form. And then Mark, you said those don't hold up in court. What I would say is that every state's laws are different. And you can't take one blank form, like collection efforts. What you might do in Oregon will probably not hold up in North Carolina, just like employment law. It changes from state to state. So, either find, if you already have some counsel that you can talk to, something that, and it isn't necessarily what will or what won't hold up in court. Some of it is the psychological advantage that you're trying to gain by getting your customers to acknowledge, by putting a wet signature on a piece of paper, that I'm willing to accept this responsibility. That's
I'd
what
love
we're
to
trying to get. Go ahead, Dave.
I'd love to chime in on that a little bit too. There are a couple of important pieces on that, but Michael, like, he's absolutely right. Talk to a lawyer. I'll say a couple things. One thing, when I had my MSP, I went to my lawyer and said, I don't care if this holds up in court. I want the scariest looking document that just looks, I want to scare the bejesus out of the guy who says, no, I don't want that, to something security. And every sale that I have where I said, hey, you need this, they say no. I say, okay, sign this. No one ever signed it. In 5 years, it didn't get signed once. And in 5 years, I mean a lot of sales. So never once did anyone sign it. It did its job and scared them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It made its point. However, if you do have that in circumstance where you need to notify someone, A, you're going to make a business decision. Do you want to do business with them? But B, you need to take out that hold harmless, that indemnification. It needs to be a notice. If you talk to a lawyer that's worth his weight, he'll tell you, put them on notice, make notice. Do not say anything about, I release you of liability, anything like that, because any lawyer will crush that in court because you actually open the door. Okay, if you're not liable, who is? Why are you making your partner have to choose who's liable or who's not? All you need to do is make notice. So here, I have notified you. Here is your notice that I have offered you XYZ. That way they can't say he never offered it to me. But that's something that you might want to talk to your legal counsel about, but I can tell you that is the way that it needs to be delivered.
I mean, I think the best statement that I've heard is paper's only worth arguing what somebody's willing to argue about and what they're willing to spend money to argue it about. So whether you have the most bulletproof case that could never be won, it can still go to court. It can still cost you a ton of money. You just have to be prepared. But that's also some of the due diligence of what you're doing around the customers that you choose to do business with. Don't just make it about the money that you're getting paid. Make it about the relationship. Make it about the why. That would be really helpful. I mean, look, there's always going to be something that's going to happen. You can't make it 100%, but you can get a lot closer than just chasing the dollar. I saw one question, Carrie, you said, are we going to see SGI best practices for services offered soon? So we do that already. I know that on Corey's team, what's going on? Well, I guess it's Dane's team now. But on Dane's team on the Cylance side, yeah, we've got best practices, tons and tons of best practices on the Cylance side, the SonicWall side, exactly the same way. I know the SonicWall team actually even has a text document that they've stripped out of some of their best practices that you could CLI into a SonicWall. We could even offer some of those consultative services when it comes to other manufacturers' firewalls of you should turn on this, you should turn off that. We can do some of those. But for most of the products, we have best practices already in place that we can offer. Let's see. We got Joe agreeing with Dave's statement.
I saw a previous question, Michael, about the collateral, the customer-facing collateral. Mm-hmm. There will be a central place where it will be located. That's coming. Until then, we'll have to email you the documents. But we're
using that forward-facing side of Confluence. So anybody who's been into our partner portal, we're using Confluence today. We've got a lot of our best practices already out there for that. So I would imagine that'll probably be the document repository where it will all land when it's finally said and done.
Exactly. But there is nowhere to go and customize. It doesn't require a fancy third-party software tool to customize. Everything is built in a Word document. So everything's been formulated where there's a outline where you simply drop in your logo. Also, you can cut and paste. So if you like the verbiage but want to put it in your own document, you can just cut and paste that. So it's fully customizable. You can even go in and edit or add a little bit of your own flavor. So it doesn't require anything special to do any customization. There will be a little bit of logo in there from the third party if you want to use it. Like the Avanon product does have the Avanon logo in there, but you can remove it or use it. It's in the document, and then you just basically insert your logo in the dotted line that's there, and it's ready to go. So there's no complication on customization.
So
To answer that.
Carrie, I don't know what the URL is for that, but I'm sure that we can get that over to you. So
Michael, I think I can help clarify that. So right now we don't have a partner portal that is public facing. We have public facing documents that each team can send out, Cylance, SonicWall, et cetera. We are working on our partner portal. It was supposed to be out this quarter, but unfortunately had to get pushed due to some other internal projects that had to take priority. So we're hoping to still have that up and operational by the end of the quarter, if not shortly after. So that's definitely coming, and that will be the new central place for everything technical, sales facing, you name it, it'll be there.
Right on. But we do have the best practices in place and available that they can get right now today through the teams, right? Well, right.
Yeah,
Perfect.
absolutely. They can contact a team like SonicWall team or Cylance team, et cetera, and they can send those customer facing documents.
Okay. Well, this is a good one for you, I think. I know that I've seen partners do it because I've seen people talking about it. Joe had asked, what about a sign in to your ConnectWise for ticketing?
Yeah, absolutely.
We've already got a bunch of partners doing that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We have that. You can contact anybody at the company. They can provide that and get you right in.
Yeah, Joe, don't contact me because I'm just going to punch you to somebody else because he says you can contact anybody. And yeah, I'm just going to kick it over to somebody else. So I guess you could contact me, but if you're looking for probably a more direct answer, don't ask this guy. I'd leave me out of that one.
And I have to make a disclaimer when it comes to this. So we cannot modify the ConnectWise ticketing system. It is their ticketing system. It is what it is. So we can't make it look prettier or anything like that. If you are receiving SOC alerts, if it's not assigned directly to you, which most of our partners, they don't have the tickets come direct to them, they have to go to another list. If you are not seeing those SOC tickets, we have to make a modification on the back end, but we only do that by request. So if you do log in, you're not seeing the ticket, the SOC ticket, send us an email saying, hey, I can't see any of the SOC tickets. It'll get over to me. I know what to do. I'll have to make a modification so you can see your whole organization tickets.
So in the essence of time, and this has been a really fantastic, I was a little concerned when Dave brought this idea up. It's like, ooh, ask me anything. It's like, nobody's going to ask us anything. We're going to be sitting here just talking to ourselves. Look, we've been at this now for 50 minutes. And so it's been great and I appreciate it. And we're going to try to keep it on schedule and probably be done here in the next 5. Todd, you asked the question on any thoughts on creating a single report to inform of all of the security layers and solutions. That's a big lift, sir. Is it something we'd like to do? Yes, absolutely. Do I think that's something that we'll get close to in 2022? No, I do not believe that we'll get there in 2022. I would like to, but that one's a huge lift. Corey, want to go ahead and go to the next slide and see. So as we're moving along in this, trying to stick to it, and a lot of people say, well, how do I start the journey? What do I do? Where do I go? And you got to pick a framework that you want to trust, that you can trust, or that you will trust. There's lots of them out there. Here are 3 that I like, and for various reasons. NIST has got their CSF framework. And like it says there, it's just a set of guidelines for mitigating organizational cybersecurity risk. And we've heard of it. You've got NIST 800-171, which that is our role. That's what we went down. And so we are NIST 800-171 compliant. There's NIST 800-53. I personally think, just Michael Crane's opinion on this, it's one of those ones where you become a little bit more of a secure, mature organization, and you are trying to hit, I don't know, you want to call it a regulatory compliance, I guess you could, but you're really trying to hit more of a maturity model. It is a tough one to start with. I don't normally recommend that anybody starts with NIST coming out of the gates if you've never done anything. Now, what I will recommend and what I really like is if you look at the CIS critical security controls, I like the fact that they've got them broken down into 18 controls. It's 153 safeguards. And if you're looking for a place to start with IG1. It is basic cybersecurity hygiene. It's 56 safeguards. It's a really simple roadmap to start on. And what I can tell you is that you will see so much cross-pollination between CIS and NIST that you are not wasting your time if you do all of IG1 and then you determine that, okay, I'm going to follow 800-171 and I'm going to go down that and get that done. But you didn't really lose anything because it's there. Or maybe if you do IG1 and IG2, either way, what you're doing is you're building something that's incredibly defensible. And that's a really important thing to think about. You want to make sure that you're doing things that you can defend. So I like CIS a lot, and we talk about it quite often. MITRE ATT&CK, I think MITRE is, so for an organization like ours, we're probably, while we are 800-171 compliant, we are absolutely utilizing MITRE. They have probably some of the better knowledge base on what's happening out there and the tactics and techniques. And so you'll hear Corey and you'll hear Dane and you'll hear the team talking about quite frequently the rule sets that they've built in the MDR platform that are aligning with MITRE ATT&CK. Corey, any thoughts on those frameworks?
Yeah, I mean, the key thing, especially when it comes to MITRE, is you have to prioritize. You can't do it all. There's no way to do it all. It could be very overpowering, right? If you look like, oh man, look at all these different tactics and techniques the bad guys can use against me. Where do I start? Well, where you start is prioritizing things. We have done that with our MDR platform. We have taken 20 tactics and techniques and said, this is our go-to for our MDR, right? Any attack that we can come up with will have to at least hit one of these so that we get some form of alert so that we can respond to this happening and then come up with a plan. Right? How did this come in? How can we circumvent this going forward? Right? What do we need to do to prevent this from happening? So that is the key thing with any framework is, finding out what is critical to you and your customers' organizations and starting there. Don't try to do too much too soon.
Yep. One quick question, and then we're going to move on to the next slide. Joe, you asked about a customer-facing report for Cylance. This was a topic of discussion we just had with Cylance this week on better customer-facing reporting. So it is something that we are working on and trying to get to quickly for sure. Or you want to go ahead and move on to the next slide, sir?
Of course. It's the barcode.
So, if you want to get more information, scan the barcode, send us an email. Very simple. Promise it's not going to download malware to you. I'm not trying to game anybody here. You said I got one from Joe about pen testing on the roadmap. Okay, so here's my take on this. And Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong. When I start hearing people talking about internal testing and then ongoing external pen testing, are you sure it's pen testing that you're asking for and not vulnerability assessments or vulnerability testing or vulnerability scanning? We definitely do external vulnerability scanning for our partners today. We have a fantastic internal vulnerability prioritization service. So I love what we're doing already on the vulnerability side. And anybody that tells you that you should do a pen test before you have completely exhaustively done external and internal vulnerability scan, they're just taking your money. There's no reason why you should ever do a pen test. And I'll also be honest, pen tests are ridiculously expensive. So one last parting thought that I will leave, as we get this question a lot. I need a SOC. And it's probably a statement or a demand. I need a SOC as a service. What does that mean to you? Well, I just need a SOC. I want to log everything. I want to know everything. I want to see everything. And my question normally starts with, is your customer going to pay for everything? And then they have a hard time and partners stop immediately. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. Start simple, start slow, do things that bring great actionable intelligence and really bring value to your clients in ways that they can understand, and give them the why. Give them the why, not the what, not the how. So Joe, thank you for telling me that it was vulnerability testing. Yes, sir, we have that. Sorry, we haven't told you about it. It's one of the newer things that we brought on later last year, but we absolutely have it. It's a cost per seat per month. We can do that on the inside. And then on the external side, we probably would recommend doing that nothing more than quarterly, unless you've got a client has got PCI needs and needs it monthly. But we can certainly talk to you about that. Just be careful, as I talked about that SOC, that you really know what your client's willing to pay for. That's what's really important here. I would love to have, I'd love to have the new Tesla Roadster. I think it's $250,000, and I don't think I'm getting that. I would love to have that because I would like to go fast. I've got adrenaline issues. I really, really like going fast. Can I afford it? Nope, can't afford it. So I'm probably never going to get that, and that's okay. But I love my Raptor. My Raptor gives me the best of everything that I could possibly want. I can haul things when I need to haul it, and when I want to go fast, it goes pretty stinking fast for me. So I leave you with that final thought. Corey, what do you got, sir?
No, just to echo. That's
Oh
something
Kerry Wagner with his Bugatti. Come on, Kerry.
just echoing what you said. I hope from what everybody got out of this, I hope you go back and think about the why. I hope you challenge your employees, challenge your partners, right? About, explaining to them the why before you lead with the how we're going to do that, and make sure they understand that.
Mr. Dave Poole.
I'm sidetracked. If anybody knows me, I'm a big car guy.
Yes, you
and I want to make comments about every single car someone's posted about. So, but I will refrain.
Stand by for our car webinar that we're having.
Yeah. my opinion is if you're not going to drive it on the track, why didn't you just buy a Honda Accord? But anyway,
there it is.
So if anybody wants to make it out there, I will see you on a road course near you. But no, this is great. Really enjoyed it. And man, still talking about cars. It keeps pulling me to it. But I'm definitely open. Drop my email in the chat, so feel free to email me directly about the content, collateral, or anything sales and marketing that I can support you guys in. This was great. I have a feeling we could have gone for another hour or even two. So
yeah, for sure. Well, we started going down the car path. So what webinar do you get on that starts with liquor and cigars and ends on cars?
I don't know how I'm going to edit this to put it on YouTube. I don't know.
I don't know. We don't care. Just throw it up there, Corey. It's all good. Well, everyone, I totally appreciate the opportunity that we've had to spend this afternoon with you. Thank you very much. I hope that your week and the why you do things is amazing. And there's a little bit of something in here that just helps you with your customers as you continue down this journey with us or alone. Thank you very much, and hope everybody has a great one.